Learning Curves and Coffee, where we skip the perfection, spill the real, and talk parenting, teaching, and personal growth over a hot cup. I'm Ivory, a mother, edupreneur, and your caffeinated co pilot through the meltdowns, meetings, and magical moments. Let's get into it. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Per usual, I hope everyone is doing well. So let's jump in because I've been thinking a lot about frustration and how parents get frustrated with themselves about being frustrated. But I want you to know that frustration is not rare and it's actually incredibly common and human trait, right? Frustration shows up daily, sometimes hourly, and it's not because we are bad parents. It's because we are human again. And so the truth is, our kids have this uncanny ability to push buttons that sometimes we didn't even know that we had. And that is a lot of it is a lot of our own triggers from our own growth and development as children, which we can unpack in another episode. Sometimes it is our frustration comes from, like, the unpredictability of the day or the blow up that happens 2 minutes before the bus comes for school, and you're like, "We gotta go because we cannot miss the bus," but your child is in the middle of a meltdown, and you're like, "What do I do now?" Like, that frustration at that point, honestly, is past frustration, but the point that I'm making is that frustration is valid, and it comes from a place of having to manage an unpredictable or unexpected experience, right? You have everything planned out and then all of it falls apart. But behind every flare up of frustration, there's usually one of three things going on. One is unmet expectations, right? We expect our children to know better, to do better, or to move faster. The second is overload. We're already tired. We're already stressed. We already stressed too thin for a multitude of reasons. Life still be life in. Our kids don't understand that and they're not supposed to. And then the third is the trigger points from our own upbringing, right? I just mentioned that before. Sometimes our kids' behavior mirrors something from our childhood that we haven't fully worked through. So, before we even talk about how do we remain calm and very demure, we have to understand what's actually heating us up, what's actually triggering us. As always, I hope you all know this by now that I'm not here to shame anybody. I've certainly lost my cool more times than I want to admit. But here's what I've learned. When we blow up, our kids learn more about how we react than about the actual lesson we're trying to teach them. I want to say that again so that it resonates. When we lose our cool, our kids learn more about how we react more than the actual lesson, right? So if you recall back to your own childhood, you always remember that moment when you did something that you probably should not have done, or maybe you didn't do anything that you shouldn't have done. Maybe you did exactly what children do at that age, right? But your parent blew up on you. You remember the yell or whatever the punishment was. You remember the scream or you remember the word that they used. You remember the behavior that your parent displayed as opposed to the lesson that they wanted to teach you in that moment. And so you know that you did something bad. Did you remember what you should have done differently? Perhaps. But what you definitely remember is how your parent responded. And frequent yelling or snapping can obviously make kids shut down and tune us out, create fear instead of respect, and turn everyday issues into power struggles. And that last piece is real because I'm very clear that I am not trying to be in a power struggle with my child at any point on this journey. Mostly because I don't do power struggles with anybody. Like, it's just not a thing that I do. Like, for what? My power is mine, yours is yours. I don't need to be taking yours, and you're not going to take mine. And that's children and adults. But when we operate in this power and control dynamic with our children, we don't see the larger picture and we lose the lesson. And they lose the lesson that we're trying to teach them. And here's the kicker, it leaves us feeling guilty and drained and disconnected from the very person or people that we're trying to guide. Like I've said, when I've lost my cool immediately in that moment, I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have waited a moment. And then I do my best to bounce back. Like, okay, that's okay. You'll do better next time. That's where that conscious parenting comes in at. Always forgive yourself when you make a mistake and commit to doing better the next time. And when you feel your blood pressure rising, literally pause, breathe, drop your shoulders. Give yourself permission to respond instead of reacting. Now, my mother, who has since transitioned, was not the most ideal parent, I should say. Well, I did not have the she just didn't she did not know, and that is okay. I forget. It was not okay, but I definitely have made peace with that. And I learned a lot from her mistakes, right? But one of the things that I always remember that she did was when she could tell, and she had, keep in mind, she had 4 kids. I have one. And for those of you who are listening, if you have multiple kids, I recognize that this is harder when you have more than one. But one of the things that she used to do was count whenever we were frustrating her or we weren't doing what she asked us to do or whatever the case was. Like just parenting is just hard. So whenever things just got hard, she would count. She was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like the farther she got along, and to 10, the more it escalated because it was 1. I recognize now she was probably trying to recognize herself because she's like, I'm not sure. I don't want to yell. And 2, it was like an indicator for us that well, we're getting on our mother's nerve. So or at least for me, I'm getting so let me like chill. So like it played 2 roles, but I don't recall her being intentional about these strategies. I think it just came natural because we do understand that the body keeps the score, and we do understand that we need tactics to keep us regulating. So she used to count. So I offer that to you as well. Take a minute before you react, if before you respond to what is happening, pause, take a breath, drop your shoulders, breathe. There's this saying, switching from, I read it somewhere, switching from fire to fireplace, right? Visualize in your head something calm. I personally love the water and the ocean. So I'm like, I visualize myself sitting near the ocean, listening to the waves come in. Just something to help regulate yourself, and to regroup you, to take you out of that space of frustration. Sometimes just saying to your child, naming your state is essential. I'm feeling frustrated right now, so I need a minute. It teaches your child emotional awareness and buys you time to calm down. I'm telling you, naming it, and this also teaches your child to use their words to communicate their feelings. We are over here modeling behavior. Parenting is about modeling behavior. Number 3, or I'm sorry, the third one that you want that I highly suggest is that you anchor your phrases, right? Have a go-to phrase when you're about to lose your cool. I usually say to Khalil, okay, let's try that again. Let's try that again. It's very firm, but it's not offensive. It's not fiery. It's not judgmental. Is if the behavior is happening that I don't like, or not that I don't like, if a behavior that is happening that is not age appropriate, then I'm gonna say, okay, we're gonna try that again. Let's try that again. And please take it and use it. Khalil throws his ball across the room because he can't have candy. Now there's a part of even saying it now irritates me of there's the idea of that because he has done that. But anyway, the frustrated part of me would be like, Khalil, why would you do that? Go get your ball. High level part of me, if you will, or it's gonna remain calm, very demure, and we're gonna say, we're gonna try that again. Go get your ball. And the kid, your kids, if your child is anything like mine, they will test you. He may refuse, and we'll just be at a standstill. And that's okay because we're not in a power struggle right now, but I'm standing firm. So that's another one. Use a phrase and use that go to phrase often so that your child also remembers that this is a moment where my behavior it shouldn't be. Let me renorm. So again, go to phrase. We're going to try that again. We're going to try that again. That teaches so many lessons to her just about trying again. So making a mistake, let's try again. Doing something on purpose is just not okay. Let's try again. The other one I want to offer you is to, if you it as much as possible, pre-plan for triggers. If mornings are always chaotic, set your clothes out the night before. If homework time is like a war zone and they start to run off or put their head down or get plenary with their behavior because they don't want to do their homework, create a snack and break routine or if then. If you do 5 minutes of your homework, you'll get these marshmallows or these try to keep healthy-ish snacks around the house, nothing with red dye. I know you all know that as parents. We can talk about later with the impact on that. But having some like if you do this, then you can have that. If you do this, you can go if you do your homework for 20 minutes, you can go play for 20. And so having that in place to pre-plan for any triggers that may come up. When you observe your child enough, you can anticipate most of their behaviors. And then, as I mentioned in the previous episode about a village, honey, tag into your village, tap in. I moved home to Kansas City a few years ago because I needed to have a trusted village around me when I needed a break. And it's not a weakness to call on a friend, a partner, a sibling, a parent, a grandparent, and say, I need a break. That's not a weakness. That is a strength. And that's called knowing your limits. And so before you blow up on your child, call somebody to come pick them up or drop them off and have some alone time. That is okay. You are human. Remember that. Here's the good news. Frustration can be a teaching tool if we handle it well. When kids use when kids see us manage our emotions, they learn self-regulation. When we admit I was frustrated, I didn't handle that well, they learn accountability. That conscious parenting piece is so key. I was a guest on the podcast, Autism in Black podcast. You should check it out. I'll link it below and also support their work. They do awesome work with parents. But she was asking me, what does it mean to be a conscious parent? Like, certainly it doesn't mean to ignore your child's behavior. I'm like, absolutely not. It's actually quite the opposite. It is you being aware of your own behaviors and apologizing to your child when you make a mistake. And guess what that does? It teaches them to do the same because kids don't do what you say, they do what you do, they do what they see, they do what you show them. Last night, we're doing our nighttime routine, brush our teeth, and I brush my teeth with Khalil so that he can see the appropriate way to brush teeth. And I was like, I'm just gonna brush and see what he does just as a sort of like a study to test my belief that children model what you do. And literally, when I was like brushing in the front, he started to brush his teeth in the front. When I started to get brush my back teeth, he started to brush his back teeth. And that is actually psychologically a very common human trait that we mirror body language often and from others. And so this is not a this is not just a theory. It is true. Like your children model your behavior. And so it gives you an opportunity to teach them that how to behave. So again, when we admit I was frustrated, I didn't handle that well, we're teaching them accountability. And when we circle back after a conflict to explain why something mattered, why a certain behavior is important to display, they learn the difference between discipline and disconnection because they're very two different things. And discipline, I want to unpack in another episode, is different than punishment or being punitive, right? So, with that, parenting frustrations also mirrors. They show us where we need to grow. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's better time management. Maybe it's learning to let go of small stuff. Maybe it's all of the above. And guess what? These are not things that are like, oh, I need to fix this to become a better parent or human being. These are things that you want to be mindful of to become a have a better experience in your life. Every moment we keep our cool is not just a win for them, it's a win for our own growth and our own health. That is essential. So this week, I want you to notice your next frustration moment. Pause, breathe, check in with your body. Where is it showing up in your body? And then choose to pivot. See what actually matters in the moment. And then give yourself some credit. You're showing up, you're learning, these learning curves be curving, and you're doing the work one coffee cup at a time. So, as always, thank you all for joining me on Learning Curves and Coffee. If this episode gave you a little encouragement, share it with another parent or educator who needs it. And don't forget to follow, subscribe so that you can engage in this continual conversation. So until then, keep your coffee strong and your patience stronger. And as always, take care of yourself. Bye.